Hello everybody, welcome back to your channel Echo Engineering. In this video we are going to talk about the QuantConnect platform. And this is a platform that we can do our backtesting and implement our algorithmic trading based on Python, including using the machine learning libraries to run a new form of trading based on the machine learning and artificial intelligence. The prerequisite for this course is actually Python Basic. If you are familiar with the Python, you don't need to go and watch the video related to this topic. But if you have not learned and you have not worked with the Python, I suggest you to go and watch the video that I leave you the link here. This is for the Python Basic and you need it. So you search for quantconnect.com, and when you are in the website, you should open an account in this website and log in to your account. After that, you just click on Algorithm Lab and go to the Algorithm Lab. So this is the where we can write our code and backtest our strategies. Here, you just press on the Create New Algorithm. If you click on it, then you can have access to all of these templates, but I suggest you to just click on the default template, and then an environment where we are able to program with Python our strategy will be opened for us, and we start running our program here. At the beginning, it just opened a template for us, but we delete it and we rewrite everything together to find out how it is working. And I suggest you, before even starting this part, go and watch the object-oriented programming with Python, the video that I leave you the link here, along with the inheritance topic, because we will use the object-oriented programming and inheritance in this video a lot. Okay, then we delete it and we write it again by ourselves. Let me clean it. So the first thing that we are gonna do is say from algorithm import everything. When we put a star here, it means import everything. This is a class, algorithm. This class is belong to QuantConnect itself, and we want to import everything from it. And then we define another class for us. We name it QuantConnect Basic, and we can just go down and define our initialization file. But there is an important thing. This is our class, and we want this class to inherit everything from QC algorithm class. If you don't know what is the inheritance and how it is working, I will leave you the link to that video. We explained everything about the inheritance in object-oriented programming with Python. But just remember, when in front of a class, we put two parentheses and write another class name. It means our class will inherit all methods and attributes from this class too. So after defining our class, we define initialize like that. And here inside it, we define self. Then we initialize our code. If you remember, in object-oriented programming, we said that when we are defining a class, to initialize it, we just use init like that. But here, actually, we are using a method which it is an attribute for this QC algorithm. It's a method for our class, but attribute for QC algorithm. So we have to use this initialize like that. It's important to write it correctly. And by using it, we initialize our QC algorithm. It's easy. We just say self.set start date and the year. For example, I want to start from 2015, 01, or just 1, and day 1. We can say self.end date, and very similar to the set start date, we just write the end date, for example, 2020, 2023, 2024, whatever we want. But if we don't write anything here, it means go and backtest it to the current date. And then we say self.set cash, and the initial cash that we want to start trading with, I want it to be $100,000. And when we say self.add equity, we should add the equity or the share or the pair that we want to trade on. For example, if we want to trade on Apple, we just write the Apple symbol like that. If we want to trade on, for example, BMD, we just write BND, we just write BND. Or for Google, or for example, TSLA for Tesla. Okay. For example, I add this one, then self.add equity again, and I want to add Apple and self.again add SPY. SPY is actually the S&P 500 and it is our benchmark. This is what we are going to actually compare our strategy performance with. We will see it more. By doing so, we are actually importing the data for Tesla, Apple, and SPY, but they have this, each of these methods have an important attribute, and it is the resolution, and we want this resolution to be minute. It means import the data for Tesla based on each minute. In the MQ5, we were talking about the ticks. For each tick price, we were running our code once. But here, for each resolution, which we define it to be minute, we calculate and we run our code once. And of course, when the resolution is actually smaller and we are using, for example, minute instead of using the daily, then the number of iterations that this strategy is run would increase, and we need more powerful computer to do the calculations. Okay, and by doing so, actually, we have to pay for using the premium account for the QuantConnect, but just for with the free one, it is okay. We can use these resolutions too. And here I copy and paste it for Apple and for SPY2. We want to have the minute resolutions for them. Okay, and after defining our class and initialize it, now we define another def, and it is on data, and it has self input or attribute and data like that. Here we say if not self dot portfolio dot invested. If this condition is not correct, then go and open a position for self dot set holding. I want to open a position for Apple. Okay, just like that. And what percentage of this $100,000 I want to invest on Apple? I can, if I enter 1, it means go and invest 100% of your cash on Apple. But if I, for example, say 0.5, it means only buy Apple by $50,000, and it is 50% of your available cash. Okay, we write it like that. We just test it now together. And what does this part say? This part said if self portfolio that invested is not true, go and open by order and buy Apple by 50% of your account balance. This one will be false when there is no open order, and will be true when there is at least one open order. So if there is no open order, go and buy Apple. But in this case, I just want to invest 100% of my cash on Apple, and the code is almost finished, and we can just run it and backtest it together, and then we continue our programming and we learn about other methods. Okay, we just want to see what is the performance if you buy, what would be the result if you only buy one, if you have already bought 100,000 Apple share in 2015 until now. I press go back test it. It takes 20 seconds to run it, because we are using the basic account and we have not upgraded our account. If you upgrade it, then we don't need to wait, but just for test, it's okay, we can use it. I fast forward the video and I will be back when it is finished. So now the backtest of our strategy is over, and this is the window that is opened for us. Here we have some data. The first one is equity. It says at the moment, it means at the end of the strategy, we have this amount of money. We started with 100,000, but now it is $743,000. And we have paid fee, $20 fee as a fee for opening the trade. And at the moment, we are holding this amount, which is a little bit less than our equity because we paid the fees. And our net profit is minus $20 because we are still holding the whole amount of shares that we bought in 2015, and we have not sold any of it. But we learn in the as we go on, we learn how to close the orders too. But now we are holding it. There is no net profit because we have not sold them. We are just keeping the shares that we bought at 2015, and the PSR, which is probabilistic Sharpe ratio, is 18.43. What is the Sharpe ratio? The Sharpe ratio is actually telling us the ratio between the standard deviation and the means of our the means of days fluctuation of the shares. It tells us whether this strategy is gaining money regularly with a small percentage, like for example every day 0.5%, 0.6%, or some days it gains 10% and the other day it loses 5%, then again gains 7%, and then the other day they lose 15%. For us, of course, it is better to be more to gain money steadily and more robust instead of fluctuating between 10% positive and minus 15%, because in this case we cannot, our strategy doesn't have a good Sharpe ratio. Then the return is 643%, and unrealized gain is $643,000 because we already had $100,000 and we gained that much money, and this is the value. We can see here for worth of our portfolio. Some days it's positive, some days it's negative, but at the end of the day, the worth of our portfolio can be seen here. It is closed at 779, and this is our portfolio margin. It says that this amount of portfolio is our Apple, and this is the asset sales value. We can select different charts from here too. We can just close this one, all of them, but all of them are important. We can just, for example, compare it with our benchmark. What is the benchmark? The benchmark is actually in this case S&P 500. What would be our performance if we bought just S&P 500? Is it better? The strategy would be better if it performed better in comparison with our benchmark. If, for example, our strategy can be profitable, but by 100%. But if during this time the S&P 500 gained 200%, then actually our strategy is not profitable in comparison with the S&P 500, because we could have gained 200% instead of 100%. As we can see, if we have bought S&P 500, we would have, it can be seen here, we would have gained 490,000, but with this strategy we have 743,000. So now we go back here, we make some changes. For example, we can say self.set end date, and we want to backtest it to 2022, 12, like for example 20, and then we want to buy another share too, is Tesla, for example, and 0.33% Apple, and 0.33% Tesla, and the other 0.33, I just want to keep it. I keep it as a cash. I press this one to backtest the strategy again, and when it is finished, I will be back to you. So the backtest is over if we have bought 33% of our cash Apple and 33% of our cash Tesla in 2015 and keep them until to the end of 2022. Then our equity would be 513,000. And these are the data here. And in comparison with the benchmark, which is the S&P 500, which here you can see that we would have gained 385,000. We have a much better performance, and we can see it here. If I close the benchmark and open the portfolio margin, I can see the percentage of Tesla and Apple in my portfolio here, how they grow, how they increase. And too many other charts here, we can have access to them. The capacity, for example, we will discuss about them too. And here it's important. This is overview, and the orders, it is very important. As we can see here, we in our code we started from the first of 2000, from the first day of 2015. But here we can see that we opened in the second day, because the first day it was holiday, and the second day it was not holiday, and the first day that we were able to open a trade, the strategy opened a trade, and it did it for both Apple and Tesla, and it for the price was $24 per share for Apple and $14 for Tesla, and the quantity was 1,325. We were able to buy 1,325 shares of Apple and 2,214 of shares of Tesla. We have not closed them. We just buy a market and we learn how to close them too. So to this point, we learn how we can open an order. In this section, we want to learn how we can close an order. I want to open one order. In this case, I want to just open Apple and I want to invest all my cash on Apple. And then when Apple reaches some point, for example, if the Apple share reaches $100, then I want to close the order. I want to close my all orders that I have already opened. To do so, here in my initialize function, actually I define another variable and I call it close price, like that, and I say it's equal to 100. Okay, because on data we already defined self, then we can have access to the self close price that we define in our initialize function. So then after opening an order, I say if self dot portfolio and Apple dot price is greater than this variable that I defined here, self dot close price, then I want to self dot liquidate Apple, like that. And I want to actually change the resolution to daily, so my backtest would be run faster, like that. All the resolutions I change them to daily, and for this one too. And there's a problem here with this code, and it is when it checks that the self, if there is no open orders, then it open an order for Apple. But when we hit this take profit and we close the orders, then we don't have any orders again, and it tries to open another orders. And I don't want to mistakenly and without meaning to do that, open an order. So to prevent it, we here actually define another variable, and it is called trade is okay. At the beginning, it is equal to true, but we define this one. We add another condition to open an order. First, we should not have any open orders, and then at the same time, we want to be able to trade. And then when we close our orders, or we can say actually when we open an order, we want this self that trade is okay be equal to false. So we don't mistakenly open another order. Now I compile it and we run the backtest to see what would happen. I run it. I will be back when this backtest is over. This is the result. The backtest is over, and as we can see here, our profit is increasing. And in some point, which is here, in this point, we liquidate all our assets. And from around between 2020 and 2021, as we can check it in the trading view, for example, here in around between 2020 and 2021. Here we hit 100 for Apple, and then our algorithm closed all open orders, and from now on we will not gain any profit or any losses, and all our positions are closed. But normally it's not the case, and we don't wanna actually hard code our take profit like what we have here, and instead we wanna say, okay, after gaining, for example, 50%, I want to close my orders. Our take profit would be based on the percentage, and it's better. And we change it in a way that, for example, after gaining 100%, I want to close my orders for Apple. Okay, then now let's open 3 orders for Apple, Tesla, and SPY. Here I define this Tesla 2, 33, and another one I just copy and paste them. Another one, I want it to be for SPY, our index. And I want to save the date that I open the orders. And I call it, I define another variable named self.trade open date, and it is equal to self.time. Okay? Self.time returns us the date and the time that the trade is open. Actually, this is a date and time object. So we will save it here. And now we want to close Apple when we hit this price limit, which is $100. But for Tesla, for example, we want to close the Tesla whenever we gain 50% profit. And for doing so, I say, okay, for self.portfolio for Tesla, that we have a method named unrealized profit and unrealized profit percentage. Okay, we use the second one, this one, unrealized profit percent. The first one, unrealized profit, is based on the dollar. For example, it tells us you gain $1,000, you gain $2,000. But this one tells us you gained, for example, 50%, 100%, and for example, it tells us your equity become double. It's very important that this actually method returns us a number between -1 to 1. When it is -1, it means we have lost all our balance, and we are at the beginning we have for example $1,000, we lost everything. When it is 1, it means you doubled your account and you are in the profit by 100%. When it is 2, it means you are in profit by 200%. When it is 0.5, it means you are in profit by 50%. And when it is minus, for example, 0.5, it means you have lost 50% of your balance. So we want to close all Teslas when this unrealized profit percent is greater than, for example, 0.75. When this Tesla is in profit by 75%, okay, I want to run this code self.liquidate all my TSLA. But for our SPY, we want to close all our SPY shares when, for example, we hold it by more than 400 days. After 400 days, I want to liquidate all my SPY shares. To do so, I say, okay, if self.time, this one is a date and time object, and minus open date, this one is a date and time object too. When we subtract two date and time object from each other, the result would be a date and time. But from this date and time object, I want only days. I want to only return the day because I want to, when the day is greater than 400, I want to liquidate my shares. But this one is date and time object. By that day, we return the day attribute of this object, and if it is greater than 400, I want to self.liquidate my SPY share. But after day 400, this condition is always true, and I don't want to liquidate something that I already do not have it. So to prevent it, I say at the same time I want this condition be true too, and it's self.portfolio for SPY if that invested is true. Go and run this part of the code. This self.portfolio SPY invested will be true whenever we have SPY share. So when we do not have SPY share anymore, it doesn't check this part and run this liquidated line. So this line would be only run once, and it is when we pass 400 days day of having the SPYs. Okay, now we run and backtest it together. I will back when the backtest is over. Okay, this is the result, but after a while we don't have any open orders, so our balance will stay the same. But what is important, we should check these orders here. As we can see, at the beginning we open Apple, Tesla, and SPY. It means we buy them. But after a while, when 400 days later in 2016, we liquidate our SPY shares, whatever we have, and then the Tesla will be closed whenever, based on this condition, whenever we are in profit by 75%. 75%. After we being in 75% profit, we close all our Tesla's orders. And for Apple, we actually hard coded Apple. And in 2020, we already saw that the Apple would hit $100 and we closed it. And after 2020, all our orders are closed, so our balance will stay the same and it doesn't change. If I click on this portfolio margin and I close this one or just make it smaller. And this portfolio margin, we can see that at the beginning we invested all our money every on Tesla, SPY, and Apple, but then we close our SPY, and then after a while, the black one, which is the Tesla, will be closed, and only we keep the Apple to the middle of 2020, and then we close everything, and we have not invested on anything. Okay, to this point, we learned how, for example, we can buy 33% of our balance Apple or 33% of our balance Tesla or SPY. And then we learn how we can close our orders based on some logic and using this self.liquidate method for this QC algorithm library. Now we want to learn how, for example, I can buy 100 shares of Tesla or 100 shares of Apple. To do so, I just comment this part by control slash like that. Now they will be neglected. So, but of course we can use this part. I just copy and paste this if statement because this statement is useful. Here we say if there is nothing in our portfolio and trade is okay, go and run this part of the code, which is market order. What does this market order method do? It open an orders with a symbol and quantity. In this symbol part, we can just, like previously we did, put the symbol here and put, for example, 100 shares here. But instead of hard coding this Tesla, I would prefer whenever we initialize Tesla, save this data coming from this self-add equity. It contains lots of data, including the ticker of this Tesla, which is a symbol. And we save it like that self.dot, for example, I say Tesla data like that. And to reach the symbol of Tesla here, instead of just hard coding it, the ticket right that, I call self.tesla data and press dot symbol like that. This will returns as exactly Tesla. We can do it for the others too. And actually we should do it because it's better. Because this add equity doesn't only give us, for example, the ticker or close and open. It gives us lots of data. To have access to them, we can use this self.dot, for example, Tesla data or Apple data or any other ticker or any other shares. Okay. Now, after opening this order, I want to self.trade is okay be equal to false. And there is another if, and I say if self.portfolio and again this symbol, which is our Tesla, dot. If the profit of this symbol is higher than, and we said by using unrealized profit percent, this one, we can reach it. If this one is greater than 30%, okay, just go and close it. Close this Tesla. Back in previous section, we used liquidate, but here we use self.market order. Instead of 100 share, I use minus 100 share, okay? But just remember here, it should not be string because already this attribute returns as a string and we should not put a string inside of string. And now we backtest it together and I will be back when the backtest is over. Here we go. This is how our balance increasing. After we hit 30% profit, it closes the all 100 open orders, and we can even see it by going to the order section. Here we can see that at the beginning of 2015, we bought 100 shares of Tesla, and then around 2 years and 4 months later, we closed them after we hit 30% profit. Okay, now I want to check an on event function and we want to work with it, okay, the event here would be on order event. So whenever we open an order, some event will be triggered, okay. First, I want to buy 1,000 shares and I want to sell minus 1,000 share. And after buying, for example, 1,000 shares of Tesla, I want to buy and I want to invest all other remaining of my balance on, for example, Apple. Okay, how do we do that? We say, for example, here self dot market order, and the symbol I want it to be just Apple here, but the quantity for the quantity I would say self dot portfolio dot cash. It returns us the remaining cash in our account divided. I divide it by this data here. I want to divide it by the open of the current candle, okay? To have access to open, close, high, low of the candles, we use this data, and in this data, this is a list, and here we say, okay, for the data for our Apple dot open, okay? This one here, this part will give us the open of the candle for that day for Apple, and we divide our cash available by the open price, then it will return us the amount of shares that we can buy. But this will be some float value. We want it to be integer, so we say int to parentheses like that, and it will be an integer. So we buy as much as we can afford by our remaining money, Apple. Now, every time that we run an order, I want some event runs, okay? To do so, we say def.on order event, this one, and it has self and order event inputs, just these two, then double dot and enter. Here, this function will run whenever an order is executed. When this order is executed, after that, for one cycle, it goes and runs this function. And then it continues to line 20, and here it runs this line of code and run an order again for Apple. After running it, it goes and run this function too. This is an order event. Whenever an order is triggered, is run, is executed, this an order event will be executed once too. Here I want to have some logs, and I say self.log, and here we say an f string, and I say okay, the remaining cache is, and we say self.portfolio.cache. But remember that this part should be a string if you want to have it. And I want to have another log here, and I say the trading symbol is, and here we say okay, show as str string of this order event dot symbol, and it should show us the symbol. It says okay, the order is fulfilled for this order, and the available cache right now is equal to this one. But there is an important thing, and whenever we send an order, we have a submit order, and then when we fill it, it is the filled order. So for each order, actually here we have a submit, and for the submit, this an order event will run, and when it is filled, again this an order event will run too. So to avoid it, we say if the order is not fulfilled, any quantity is not filled, just return. So don't do anything. If order event that fill quantity is equal to 0, then just return and don't do anything. It means when it is just for submitting the order and you are running this on event, just return and don't do anything. But if you already filled some quantity and you have already bought some shares or pair, okay, in this case, go and log how much the cash is remained and the symbol that the trade is done on it. We can, for example, add another log too, like we can say, okay, quantity is, and here we say in order event and fill quantity. Okay, now I backtest it, and I'll be back whenever the backtest is over. So the backtest is over, and now here, if we go back down to the orders for 3 orders that we have: Tesla, Apple, and again Tesla. If I click on it, I see that here the first time we have submitted and then it is filled. Uh, Remember, if we didn't have this part of the code, if order event that fill quantity is equal to 0 return, if we didn't have it for the first one, which is the submitted order, actually we would have run the unorder event, the order event once too. But because of this part of the code, we do not run it when the quantity is 0, and we run it only when the quantity is not 0. So we bought Tesla, we bought thousands of Tesla, and then we bought 3,971 Apple, and then we have sold 1,000 share of Tesla again. But the most important part is actually in the log section. Okay, here we can see that we are logging for each order. And first we say, okay, the remaining cash is $85,137. Then we say, okay, we bought Tesla and the quantity is 1,000. But then for the second one, we see that it is negative. When it is negative and it is Apple and the quantity is 3,971, but when the cash is negative, it means we borrowed some money and we are using leverage to buy our orders, which we will discuss in the upcoming videos, how we can use the leverage. But just remember that, okay, for example, we have $1,000 and we want to buy 10 shares, but at the price that we did our calculation, we could not fulfill our order and the price has increased, but still we want to buy 10 shares and we have to pay more for these 10 shares and we don't have money, so we are borrowing money from our, for example, broker to buy these 10 share that their price has increased. But then here, and the third order that is run and the third on order event function will run and we sell Tesla and we sell thousands of Tesla share. So the next important topics is actually the indicators, which we will talk about them and cover them in the next videos. But before that, I suggest you to go to the documentation and read the indicators. The documentation is very important. You can find everything here. If you click on it and go to the documentation, you can see that here it has different sections, which in this case, we can go, for example, to writing algorithm section. And here, there is a section named indicator, which here, this is the indicator. If you go here, there are lots of information about how you can write and work with the indicators here. For example, this is the Bollinger Band, and we will cover them, but please try to read it. And here I finished this video and we close it right here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget, if you like this video, hit the like button so YouTube algorithm will introduce us to those who are interested in these topics too. Wish you a good day. Bye.